Welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my insights that I've gleaned over the past 6 months or so that have really accelerated my personal development in the area of physical health. And so I'm going to be covering some topics today about how to optimize as a man your energy levels, your longevity and lifespan, the quality of your life, and going to an area that's quite emergent, which is essentially how you optimize and build yourself into the man that you are inspired to become. Now, when I started on this journey, going back, like I said, about 6 months ago, I was working out 4 times a week. I was getting up about 6 in the morning, and yet I found myself fatigued. I found myself slow to recover. I found myself in continual aches and pains. And to be frank, I'm 46 years old, and I thought, oh shit, this is what old aging is. It was actually the very first time that I had considered for a moment that my body's degrading and my quality of life is suffering as a consequence. And that wasn't acceptable to me. So I started to research a bunch of different things. And initially, what led me down the path was testosterone optimization. And I read a book called Estrogeneration. And something really resonated with me in this book. And it was part then of what became a larger study around testosterone optimization. And now that's become to a much bigger, deeper issue, which I'll cover as we go through this presentation. But essentially what I did is I started to optimize my life around increasing my natural testosterone. And so I haven't done TRT. Everything I've done is natural, something you can apply regardless if you're a 20-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 50 or a 60-year-old. When I started to research testosterone, I bought pretty much every guide in the market, and I started to do my own experimentation. What I came to understand was testosterone is at the core of what gives you energy. So testosterone is at the very core of your energy levels as a man. So what it does is it instructs the bone marrow to produce hemoglobin and red blood cells. They're the things which carry oxygen around your body. So when you don't have sufficient testosterone, then your energy levels are going to suffer. And that's why so many men, like in my case, I would do 25 to 30 push-ups and I'd be exhausted. And I was like, why am I taking so long to recover? Because again, testosterone is involved in the development and recovery of your muscles. It's a steroidal hormone. So when I came to understand this, I was like, I'm onto something. And so I made some life changes. I eliminated all estrogens from my diet. I started taking some of the precursors to developing testosterone, your DHEA, vitamin D3, K2. I started to also focus on my minerality. So I understood that I'd been vegan for about 17 years, and I started to eat eggs daily. And then I understood that cholesterol is also needed for the development of steroidal hormones like testosterone. I started to sleep optimize, and I changed my workouts from what I found to be cortisol producing style workouts, so heavy weightlifting, kickboxing, to high intensity interval training and sprints. And what I noticed in the space of a month to 6 weeks, my energy levels skyrocketed. And then I continued down this path. And then after around 3 months of doing this, I was a different man. I mean, my level of focus, my level of energies, my libido, so much came back online to a level that I didn't even realize that I was missing previously. And then I started to optimize even further. You know, I started with things to reduce cortisol, because cortisol blocks the assimilation of testosterone in the body. So I started breath work, I started daily meditation, I started taking specific supplements to do so, like Fidosia agrestis and Tongarali. And what I noticed was that I started to put on muscle, wherein in the past I hadn't. I started to notice my face was changing. And I went from doing something like 7 pull-ups to now doing 17. And this is after about 4 months. So I guess I'm coming to the understanding that I believe aging has a lot to do with our endocrine system. That because of the foods we're eating, our subjection to bad estrogens or xenoestrogens, environmental estrogens, that reduce testosterone, reduce the assimilation and metabolism of testosterone, that we begin to decline with age. And the symptoms of fatigue, of our body not repairing, are really symptoms of the less optimal utilization of testosterone in the body. Then I opened up the hornet's nest, and I see this now as part of a concerted effort to reduce masculine dominance. And so this taps into the very core of why I think the restoration of healthy masculinity is essential to resolve so many of the current world challenges and so much of the chaos and so much of the degradation of society and the breaking down of relationships and community. I believe healthy masculinity is a restoration of that. And essentially I began to devote my life towards lifting up the men around me and lifting up myself. And this relates to something that I then understood what I was doing is I was building up my physical frame. So those who follow me will know I speak often about the concept of a masculine frame, which essentially is having an internal frame of reference, an internalized authority, and the ability to be in integrity with that when you're placed under pressure from external environmental sources, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, monetary, and what have you. So once I understood this concept, I started to see also the transfer of the development of myself physically in obviously my energy levels, but also my focus and my discipline. So when I went from getting up at 6 a.m. and training 4 days a week to getting up at 4:45 a.m. and training 11 times a week, there was an exponential improvement in my energy levels and my ability to focus and my output. And this is going to sound really obvious once I tell you, but I just never had considered it. If men are made and you have a strategy for enhancing yourself in different aspects of your life, then whatever you apply yourself, you want to optimize to be the best in that specific area. So I'd never really, health was something I did. It wasn't something that I sought to become extraordinary in. If you want to become an extraordinary man, you train in an extraordinary way. Any elite athlete knows this. If they want to excel in a specific area of life, in this case, physical and sporting pursuit, they're going to devote themselves to that activity and they're going to do an exceptional or extraordinary level of training to rise to the best in that area. Now, if men are made, why is it that so few men are strategic about elevating and optimizing every aspect of their life to become an effective male? And so in the past, we had these rites of passage. You'll hear me talk about that often as well. But what it was building a boy into a man. They had certain processes and systems that would help that man to develop discipline, courage, overcome fears, and develop that killer nature often within himself. So what I noticed is after, 18 years of being a vegan, that killer nature had been suppressed in me. And then unwittingly, I'd also fallen into the feminine frame of authority. When you start to develop your physical frame, as part of a strategy to develop your frame in general, there's these overlaps that start to happen in positive and empowering ways. So when you become more physically dominant through lifting weights, through increasing your testosterone level, you start to become more assertive. It complements your authoritative nature. It starts to bring back your aggression levels. And so it becomes a lot easier to be in your masculine frame, to be assertive and to be in your own inner authority. And you start to develop more safety within yourself such that you're less reactive to the pressures that would trigger fear response within you. You're just able to hold yourself calm because you're resourceful and capable and you believe that you have within yourself the ability to restore the environment to calm. So this whole journey that began really from me being in pain and lacking energy and not recovering has now really grown to something beyond that. Where I'm going now, in addition to longevity, which I'll talk more about, is into optimizing every part of myself, is into optimizing obviously my physicality, my looks, and that was a positive outcome of losing 13 kilograms in 4 months, which is what I did or have done. And obviously the fitness benefits. So I came back to doing boxing training. I started taking the NAD plus supplementation, which is going around a bit, which is an anti-aging and it's an anti-aging compound that helps the transfer of energy across cells. So I started injecting NAD plus. That was a huge positive contribution to my energy levels also that I would take before doing a workout. So NAD is something that's naturally present in the body that declines over time. So I am an advocate of supplementation strategically and for the right reasons and in the right way. I'm not taking any sort of artificial steroids, but NAD plus was something that resonated with me. Now, once a man becomes aware of the potentialities that he's able to optimize himself, that he's able to change everything from his physical structure, his voice, his posture, the way he walks, you start to get treated very differently by the people around you and by society. So if you haven't heard about this already, there's a looks maxing community, and there's things like mewing and numerous other different strategies that people are doing now. And the reality is that you, despite whatever you're born with, despite whatever your genetics are, you can change your jaw structure, your eye shape, everything without doing any sort of surgery. And I noticed that even in the men around me, when they started to optimize their testosterone using the strategy that I'd put together, their face started changing, became more square, more dominant in appearance. And that's a product of testosterone in the blood. But also, I started to doing jaw exercises, which filled out the sides of my jaw. I started to breathe through my nose instead of through my mouth. I started sleeping on my back instead of my side. And then I noticed, combined with the increased energy levels, the physical dominance that was coming back to me, losing the 13 kilograms, obviously it changed my confidence levels and the way that I started to relate to the feminine. I started to have a lot more interest. I started to getting looks with increasing numbers, And I'm a man who's pretty confident with women in general, but this is at a different level. I was being pursued in a way that I hadn't when I was carrying 13 kilograms more. So really all of this just simply starts with the decision that you want to begin to optimize yourself as a man. Like I said, if men are made and you want to give yourself the best chances in life as a man, then you want to focus on the areas that you can improve that will give you your best experience and effectiveness as a man. And if you haven't paid any attention to who you wish to craft yourself to become, I think it's a very good place to start. So the optimized version of yourself, what does he look like? How does he relate to the world? How do people relate to him? What's his physicality? What's his job? What's his business? What's his relationships and the women that are around him are like? What is his wealth creation position and abilities? And craft yourself into a vision that you have for yourself. And just by doing that, any step you're making is already an improvement to where you are now. But what I've begun to notice is there's an exponential benefit that's possible for those men that make this decision, because immediately you're choosing not to be average. You're choosing not to leave your experience of life to chance. And you'll begin to shape your experience of reality and how other people relate to you. So if you'd like to learn more about this whole trajectory into crafting yourself into becoming an extraordinary man, I'm creating a whole rite of passage, which is really a system or a process to guide men from being average into becoming extraordinary, to optimizing every aspect of their life from the inside out. And if this speaks to you, if you want to attract more women, if you want to build your financial position, become more successful in business, enhance your health like I did, then I encourage you to reach out. I'm going to put some information in the captions below that can guide you to joining our community. I've got numerous programs that I've created as well. And I believe from what I'm seeing already in the men who have joined this community and done these programs, exceptional and extraordinary change is possible once you commit to it. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been useful to you.